48 hours ago, Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused Prince Andrew of sexual assault, sensationally withdrew a separate allegation she made about the high-profile lawyer, Alan Dershowitz. Giuffre, you all know, an alleged victim of the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking ring, and earlier this year she agreed a settlement with Andrew for a reported $12 million, the equivalent of £10 million. Andrew made no admission of guilt and has always denied the claims levelled at him. Giuffre also claimed that Epstein had forced her to have sex with one-time Trump attorney Dershowitz. However, now she says she, quote, may have made a mistake. In the wake of that bombshell, sources close to Dershowitz have branded the Duke of York a fool for not taking Giuffre to court and clearing his name. And I'm joined now by our esteemed royal masterminds, Lady Colin Campbell and Phil Dampier. And Lady C, I have to come to you first on this because you have been one of the most high-profile proponents and defenders of Prince Andrew. You have always questioned some of the, how should we put it, Lady C, credibility around Giuffre's claims. How do you feel about this U-turn from her over Dershowitz?
Well, I have always said that I knew that she would have to settle against Mr. Dershowitz, because if she didn't settle, she was going to have to end up going to prison for perjury. So if you knew what was going on behind the scenes, it was a no-brainer that she'd settle. The woman is totally, she's a total liar. She has invented all sorts of things. It's a matter of black and white record that she didn't even know who Mr. Dershowitz was, and it was suggested to her by a Mail on Sunday journalist that she name him. You know, it's all there in black and white. And she came up with all of these phantasmagoric memories that she had. But of course, because Dershowitz is a very powerful person in the United States, not only legally, but in terms of his political connections, it was always a done deal that at some point it was going to have to be a done deal, and that they would settle the case in such a way that there would be as little egg on her face as possible. But you know,
so do you think Andrew made a mistake to settle, given this?
Sorry?
Do you think Andrew made a mistake to settle, given what's happened this week?
Well, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but the fact of the matter is, I have said all along that I knew that Prince Andrew had to settle, because if he didn't settle, he knew his mother was dying, and I tried to hint at it all along, and I knew she was dying, he knew she was dying, and he knew that if the case had gone to court, which it would have gone this October, that it would have overshadowed the whole of her Jubilee celebrations and would have ruined them. And he didn't want this. So he, as soon as the moment arrived when it became apparent that the photograph was a fraud, and people who use their minds would have figured out that if the photograph was the fraud, the whole thing was a setup. He used that to settle. He fell on his sword for his mother. You know, I don't understand why people think just because the man is not an attractive personality and that he's a prince, that he should have no justice.
No, Phil, just to put the other side, of course, sources close to Giuffre say the Prince Andrew case is different. They say it's because he's so famous that she couldn't have mistaken his identity, and also that there was that photo and the corroborating witnesses supporting her allegation. And I guess, Phil, Andrew, if he had wanted to clear his name, he needed to go to court, although, as Lady C says, he did it for the good of his mother. It's a tough one, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, good evening, Dan. I mean, I'm no great fan of Virginia Giuffre, and I think the fact that she's now admitted that she might have got this wrong about Alan Dershowitz speaks volumes. But I do think that the Andrew case is different. I mean, why would you settle with somebody who you've never met? I mean, I don't believe that he never met her. I don't believe that that photograph is a fake with his arm round her at Ghislaine Maxwell's London flat. It's been checked out by the FBI. I do think Lady C's right that he didn't want the embarrassment of a court case which would have been dreadful for the Queen, and I'm sure that the stress of it all took its toll on her. But having said all that, and by the way, I'm actually told that he didn't actually pay off $12 million. I think it was much less than, much nearer to $3 or $4 million is what I'm told by some very good sources. But having said all that, I think he had to pay her off to spare the embarrassment. But I don't think you do that to someone you've never met and didn't have a relationship with. So as I say, I think the whole thing's very, very sad, very sordid. But I think he had to pay her off.
Let's move on to the other royal exile, Meghan, who this week is griping in her podcast about the word difficult. Listen to this.
In other words, I think what Robin's getting at, and what these people are implying when they use that very charged word, is that this woman, she's difficult. Which is really just a euphemism, or probably not even a euphemism. It's really a code word for the B word.
Oh, Lady C, your response?
Well, my dear, let me put it this way. Meghan is not the only high-profile woman on earth who has who is strong-willed and stands up for what she believes in. You're looking at one of them. Some people might say I'm awkward or difficult to deal with. Very few people say I'm a bitch. Meghan, people say she's a bitch because she's a bitch. They also say she's difficult because she's difficult. She's pushy. She is tasteless. She is she seems to have created these podcasts as a platform to deny everything, every failing that she has that the world knows about. I mean, if the woman wants to deny her failings, change her demeanor, and between now and then, stop boring us with all sorts of self-serving rubbish. She is both difficult and a bitch. I mean, who could be not a bitch the way she behaved to Prince Philip and the Queen when they were dying?
It was horrific. It was utterly horrific. And Phil Dampier, I mean, the irony in all of this is she's so worried about the D word and the B word. Well, shouldn't she actually be worried about virtually every senior staff member who worked with her during her time in the royal family actually using a very different B word, bully, and also calling her a narcissistic delusionist? I mean, surely that's more worrying, Phil.
You've taken the word right out of my mouth. You take the words right out of my mouth, Jan. I was going to say the same thing. The B word means bully, doesn't it? I'm sure a lot of those people who allegedly were bullied by her at the palace have got all sorts of names for her we don't hear about, and we heard about it all through Valentine Lowe's book as well.
Yes.
So I think they've got some names behind her back. But how many more of these podcasts are there to go? I mean, I'm not sure we can stand more, can we? It really is becoming one long whinge, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. I mean, Lady C, I just want no more. But what I'm sort of loving about this Lady C is actually even her fans are now tiring of this.
Well, yes, of course they are. Because, I mean, the woman has nothing to contribute except, please look at me, please pay attention to me, I'm a victim. What's she a victim of? She's one of the most privileged people on earth. She was welcomed by the British royal family. According to Harry, she had the family she'd never had. They welcomed her with open arms, according to her. Listen to what she said initially. And now she's on a bitch fest about how unhappy she is and how disadvantaged she was and what a victim she was. I mean, the woman is just tiresome. She needs to come up with a new act. Preferably one that we can actually say, oh, well, we like something about her. At the moment, she's dishing up dirt that means we can't like her.
No, very good point.
And she can't say we didn't like her because we did.